This is Joshua Sharf. I'm good. I'm here at the Bagel Deli with Palestinian Media Watch founder Itamar Marcus, and stand with us Denver Chairman Yona Eshkenazi. It's Thursday morning, November 19th, and we're going to get started. Welcome to Denver. Mr. Marcus, tell us very briefly, just to get us started, a little bit about Palestinian Media Watch before we get into the more interesting questions. Give us a little bit of background on how you were founded, what you cover, what sources you use to produce your reports, and what kind of details you look for in Palestinian media.
Palestinian Media Watch was founded around 13 years ago. The goal was to find out what Palestinians were saying amongst themselves in Arabic, and especially we wanted to know what they were saying to the children. In fact, we feel it's more important to know what a third grade teacher is telling her students than it is to find out what Abbas, the Palestinian president, is saying to the president of the United States. Because what he's saying to the president of the United States, he isn't necessarily honest and true, but what a third grade teacher is telling her children in her classroom will determine if we have peace in the next generation. So we've been studying Palestinian school books. We study the official media. We study sporting events that children could be participating in. We study role modeling, and we get a sense of what's happening in Palestinian society. And especially we get a very good picture of what I call the world of the Palestinian child. It's with this material that we go to governments around the world. We work very closely, for example, with the Bush administration. We worked with the Sharon administration and now with the Netanyahu administration to show them what we believe is the real message and the real culture in Palestinian society. And it is based on this real culture that all negotiations have to be derived. You can't create a fantasy of a reality and based on that negotiate. You have to know what the reality is. Otherwise, you're going to be negotiating about X when the issue is really Y.
A couple of years ago, there was a study that was produced about the school books that were being used. Most of these were Saudi funded, and they were quite clearly both anti-Israel, but more substantively also anti-Semitic in outlook. Is the stuff that's being used in the Palestinian classrooms, is that still largely Saudi funded, and is that where that influence comes from, or is this now being homegrown generated? Is this now substantively being generated within the PA itself?
Palestinian school books were never Saudi funded. Palestinian school books were funded by the West, funded originally by the United States and the Europeans. After our original reports on Palestinian school books as far back as 1998, the United States ceased funding the school books because they were filled with so much hatred. The Europeans have continued funding, and in response to our report, the Palestinians have actually rewritten all of the school books from grades 1 through 12, and we continue reporting on their new school books. The last school book report that we did was when they printed their newest books, which are for 12th grade. We released it at a press conference with Hillary Clinton in the Senate building about 2 years ago, at which point Hillary Clinton said, "We must stop the propaganda to which Palestinian children are being exposed. They're getting not an education, they're getting an indoctrination." Then she ended, "The Palestinians are profoundly poisoning the minds of their children." So when you ask, has there been improvement? There has been no improvement. I agree completely with what Hillary Clinton said, that they're profoundly poisoning the minds of their children. This is a finding that we have had, and we continue to find. The school books are one of the greatest impediments to peace between Israel and the Palestinians. The next generation is being brought up not to recognize Israel's right to exist, to see violence as a valid and, in fact, as a heroic means of dealing with any disagreement with Israel. And they are also taught to see death for Allah, the shahada, the martyrdom, as something that is expected of them, as something that's glorious, as something that they should be aspiring to. So if you put these three components together, non-recognition of Israel, the violence, and the death for Allah, you are growing a generation of Palestinian children who are going to slip right into the hatred, the violence, and suicide terror as soon as the leadership decides that it's in their interest.
Now, you also, in addition to looking at school books and classroom materials, you also cover the more general Palestinian media as well, the stuff that adults would listen to, radio broadcasts, newspapers, and so forth. Do you do anything with new media? Do you cover websites, chat rooms? Do you try to get some sense of what's happening bottom up, as well as what's happening top down?
We yes, it's very important for us to get a sense bottom up. But one of the we study those various websites that we can identify as Palestinian and the chat rooms. However, we don't publish those findings because it would be wrong to take text from a chat, not knowing who these people were, not knowing really what their background or why they're saying what they're saying, and to create any kind of real conclusions based on that. For us, it's important to know what the Palestinian leadership are saying, because when we get a consistent message in a Palestinian school book, from Palestinian television, from Palestinian cultural events, then we know this is Palestinian policy. In other words, the media as an insider is not the issue. The media as an indicator is the issue. And when we get the indicators coming from all different places in society, then we know that the Palestinian leadership is not yet ripe for peace negotiations.
Okay, so I was thinking of this in terms of how the leadership might manipulate those kinds of forums, but you're suggesting that it's just difficult to tell if a forum is being manipulated by leadership because it's so easy to be anonymous or use an assumed name that you can't be sure whether or not this is a stalking horse for the leadership that's commenting or just somebody on the street. Are there different venues that at this point there appear to be two voices within the PA, or at least within the Palestinian world officialdom, Hamas and then the PA itself? Are there different media outlets, different types of media outlets that each controls, and is there some difference in terms of how they go about reaching people? And maybe you can comment a little bit about that.
The Palestinian Authority, under the head of the Fatah movement, Mahmoud Abbas, has two television stations. One is officially a Palestinian Authority station. One is officially a Fatah station. The two of them really represent and express the opinions of the leadership and opinions of the Fatah. The Hamas likewise has two television stations, and by the way, all of these stations go out by satellite, so that these messages of hate, and especially the children's programming, which especially Hamas invests a lot in, to make it cheery and attractive for children. This goes out to the entire Arabic language speaking world, so that you can have children here in the United States, Arabic speaking children, who are getting these poison hate messages that Israel must be destroyed, that Jews are evil, that Jews are the enemy of God. All these hate messages can be coming here, and that's the great danger of the communications today. As much as the internet and as much as satellite television gives us, in one sense, a greater reach to reach Palestinians and to reach the Arab-speaking world. On the other hand, it gives the hate mongers also that same opportunity to spread hatred with much greater efficiency. And one hate message that comes out of a small studio in Gaza, where, for example, last week we had this very charming, or I said last month, we had this very charming bear named Nasur, who's on this program called Tomorrow's Pioneers, talking about how it's necessary to slaughter the Jews. Now, that charming message, which was being presented to children on television, that charming message, which went out to children from Gaza, reached children here in Denver as well if they were listening to Hamas satellite TV.